Welcome, everyone. So the focus of today's webinar is on green and inclusive urban development. We will be approaching this from a multi-level governance perspective. We have a very tightly packed agenda with many external speakers from all 5 Nordic countries. So we're delighted to have so many participants from across the Nordic region, and also to see active attendance from the rest of you. Without any further ado, I thought that we would go into the program. I could just mention first that my name is Mats Stjernberg. I'm a senior research fellow at Nordregio, and I'm hosting this webinar, moderating the webinar together with my colleague, Janna. And excuse just a second. It's the wrong setting.
It's being paused.
Your screen is just a second. We are having some technical issues. We have a new studio here at Nordregio, and evidently the technical devices that we have are too advanced.
Yeah, no, we're on.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so the focus of today's webinar is urban sustainability from a green perspective, from the perspective of social inclusion. And really the purpose of this webinar is to bring together a wide range of speakers from different levels of governance, from the national level, from the regional level, and also from the local levels. And we really see this as an event where we want to exchange knowledge about ongoing initiatives to promote green and sustainable or green and inclusive urban development. The webinar, you see the program here. We will start off by briefly explaining, saying a few words about the background. The webinar is organized by 2 ongoing research projects within the Nordic thematic group for green and inclusive urban development. In just 1 minute, I will say a few more words about what this Nordic collaboration is about. Then after us, we have a wide range of speakers who will first be presenting ongoing initiatives. 3 speakers from Sweden, Norway, and Denmark in relation to green urban development. Then this will be followed by 2 other example speakers from Norway and Finland, sharing examples from ongoing initiatives, area-based regeneration initiatives and specific neighborhoods to promote social inclusion. This will be followed by a Q&A where we will try to bring together the speakers from the first 2 segments of the program. And then we will also, as you see in the title, we have this focus on multi-level governance. So followed by the Q&A, we will bring in additional speakers who will bring more local perspectives on how we are working with sustainable urban development, and then concluding with a panel. So this webinar is organized jointly by 2 research projects that are being carried out within the Nordic thematic group for sustainable or green and inclusive urban development. Nordregio, where we are now located, we are broadcasting from our studio on Skeppsholmen. We act as the secretariat for 3 Nordic thematic groups. The group that we are focusing on today, or which is organizing this webinar, is the urban group, focusing on green and inclusive urban development. But we also have 2 other groups focusing on green and inclusive rural development, and also the regional perspective, focusing on green and innovative and resilient Nordic regions. Just to mention a few words about what the purpose of these thematic groups is all about. These thematic groups are largely about exchanging knowledge. So they are composed of regional policymakers at national level, at regional level, and also from municipalities and cities from all the Nordic countries. So this is this type of knowledge building and exchange of knowledge that is being developed throughout the Nordic region. And these thematic groups run for 4-year periods, and the work that is being carried out now is basically a continuation of the previous thematic group for sustainable cities and urban development between 2017 and 2020. I mentioned here that that the thematic group our work actually is large. You saw in the title of the webinar, we have green and inclusive, and this is also something that stems from the key policy frameworks that we base our work on. So you could say that there are 2 key Nordic policy frameworks that constitute the basis of our work. The most obvious one is the Nordic Vision, our Vision 2030, where the aim is that the Nordic region will become the most sustainable and integrated region in the world. And there are 3 pillars or strategic priorities within this vision. The first one is a green Nordic region, sustainability from the green perspective. The second is competitiveness, and the third is socially sustainable. And of course, for this webinar and the context here, the green and the social aspects are most central. And then more concretely, we have the Nordic Cooperation Program for Regional Development and Planning, which is even more in detail, laying out the specificities from the perspective of regional development and planning. Me and my colleague, Diana, will just briefly say a few words about the 2 research projects which are jointly organizing this webinar. I'm managing this project called Planning for Socially Mixed and Inclusive Neighborhoods. This is a Nordic study which is based against the background that there are increasing concerns about growing segregation in Nordic cities. And in response to this, Nordic governments and cities have taken more and more action to counteract segregation and create more socially inclusive cities and neighborhoods. So a multitude of different policy and urban planning measures are being implemented. And we will hear 2 examples of these types of initiatives going on in Finland and Norway today. And yeah, just to mention the main purpose of this project that we're talking about here, it's really to deepen the understanding of how different urban planning and policy measures are used to create more socially inclusive and mixed neighborhoods. And you could say that the common denominator for this project, and the one that Diana will say a few words about next, is really the notion of multi-level governance and how the interaction between state and the national level and municipalities and the regional level in between, how that looks. So this is, of course, one of the starting points also for the webinar and the discussions that we will be having here today. Yeah, the project is ongoing. It will continue until next year. Currently, the first phase of the project has been about conducting a policy outlook, looking at different strategies, mainly at national level, that we have in the Nordic countries. And in the coming phases of the work, we will look at how Nordic governments, municipalities, and cities work with indicators for assessing urban segregation. And then the third stage of the project will have a stronger focus on different types of participatory planning approaches. And then the final synthesis of the study will, again, touch on this notion of multi-level governance for inclusive cities. So this was the first project, and then this webinar is organized jointly together with the second project, and I think I'll hand over the word to you.
Yes, thank you, Mats. I'll say a few quick remarks about also an ongoing project that is currently called Comparative Review of National Support Initiatives for Local Urban Development, although we realize that's quite a mouthful for a topic that we want to kind of spread more attention about, and it focuses on currently these aspects of how national level influence local urban development, especially when it comes to land use. And we're looking at these three areas across the Nordic countries. And the first, although the project runs for 2-3 years, we're now in the first phase when we're looking to share a working paper mapping these national support initiatives. And as Matt said just now, the focus is on multi-level collaboration, but more specifically at the mechanism for financial support. And the aim is to share best practices around so-called top-down, but also how this cooperation functions bottom up. So that's very quickly about the national level work. And then I'd like to add that there's also a third project within this program that's focused on multi-locality, that's jointly with the other thematic groups. And we're actually publishing a knowledge overview of that in about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So if you're also interested in the issues of remote working and emerging trends that we're now seeing in the Nordic countries following the pandemic and so on and so forth, yeah, multi-locality report is coming out. But enough about our work for the time being. Now we're really excited to hear more about the work and efforts of our participants today. So without much further ado, now we will turn to our first speakers, and we will learn more about 3 examples of national level green initiatives from Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, respectively. And we hope that this will bring forth some good practices that will inspire partnerships between central government or nationwide stakeholders, together with regional municipalities and other local actors across the Nordics. So to begin, we have Espen Larsen. He's the communications advisor at the Norwegian Environment Agency, also known as Miljødirektoraktet. He will talk about Klimasats, which has been an initiative supporting nearly 1,500 projects now since 2016 in Norway. So please, Espen, go ahead and share about Klimasats. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll try to do that in 5 minutes. So I'm not going to say too much about the project. I'll try to focus on lessons learned. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so Klimasats is a program that provides financial support to municipalities that want to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It does not cover climate change adaptation, and it doesn't really focus on the broader sustainable development goals. So we are rather narrow-minded, looking at cutting greenhouse gas emissions and contributing to a low-carbon society in the future. It was established in 2016, as mentioned. It was a political initiative, came from one of the political parties in power at that time. And in its first year, the size of the program was about 100 million Norwegian kroner. Considering that we have more than 300 municipalities in Norway, it gives you an idea of sort of the size of the program. Since then, the Klimasats budget has varied between 150 and now up to 250 million Norwegian kroner. It's become a popular program. The municipalities want it, and they are asking the government to put more money into it because it's a bottom-up approach where the municipalities can take the initiative And then when they receive a little bit of funding, they are able to give the climate work a higher priority. So, all right, a few numbers to sort of say something about the reach of the program. We have up until now received something like 2,900 applications from municipalities in total over the years. And out of those 2,900, about 1,600 have received funding for their projects. They've applied for a total amount of more than 3 billion Norwegian kroner. So the interest is high, and they have received about 1.2 billion Norwegian kroner. And there are now Klimasats projects in all of the 11 regions of Norway and in around 75% of all the municipalities. But there are a lot of the municipalities may have only one project, and then some municipalities may have many projects. What kind of projects do we support? Well, it's everything from planning of transport and infrastructure and spatial development and other transport-related initiatives, such as electrification of transport and walking and cycling and so on. Green public procurement, buildings and construction sites, and we also have support for municipal climate networks. But we also have a very big open category. It's quite open. It's quite important to have this one because there's a lot of good ideas from the municipalities that you know, they can come up with things that we never thought about, and we want to open up for that possibility. Yeah, I should also say that we have put a lot of emphasis on communications. So first of all, it's been about spreading knowledge and information about the projects that are going on, so that the good projects, the lessons learned from the good projects, are distributed to all of the municipalities. And so for that reason, we have a lot of webinars, we have a podcast, we have a Facebook group, we make guidance that we put online on our website, and we have physical and digital conferences and seminars. All of this to spread knowledge, give municipalities ideas, but also to motivate the municipalities. We try to give them a place where they can shine and show what they're doing, which is also quite important, we find. Okay, so lessons learned. There are very many lessons, so I'll try to focus on what was asked for here, what relates to multi-level governance. But first of all, the funding has been important to trigger the projects, to get them going, and it has resulted in a lot of knowledge and methods that make it much easier for other municipalities to start their own projects. It has also led to a whole lot of dialogue between different government institutions, both at the sort of multi-level, at the state and regional and local level actors, but also horizontally, so that at the government level we are talking to sort of other directorates and government actors in order to be coordinated with our work. We put a lot of emphasis on this, so we try to communicate as much as we can to be coordinated. All right. It's yeah. When we have had a lot of conferences and seminars, and these places are also great for communications, not with the municipalities, but with other actors that are important for the climate work to go on. And I should say also that Klimasats has been quite important, not in bringing about the technical innovation and technical solutions, but to integrate climate policy holistically in the organization and to initiate more long-term planning for climate work in the whole organization of the municipalities. That in that way, it's rather different from many of the other programs, the financing programs that we have in Norway. And when it comes to sustainability, because you are talking a lot about sustainability here today in the broader context, and as I mentioned, Klimasats is rather narrow-minded, but we see that the municipalities, they have more of a focus on the broader sustainability issues, and I think they would like to see programs, funding programs that actually take that into account and allow them to work more holistically with climate, environment, and development. For example, as a government actor, we would like to see municipalities focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions and climate change adaptation, and seeing the two things in relation to each other and maybe achieving synergies. But we don't have a funding scheme that does that. We have one funding scheme for reducing emissions, and then we have another sort of funding scheme for adaptation. So I think I probably spent my 5 minutes. I'll stop there and then I can take questions.
Thank you so much, Espen. Super interesting takeaways there, and we'll save the questions for the Q&A sessions. But if any of you attendees have any kind of burning points you'd like to share, please feel free to use the chat. The same goes for our panelists. Use the chat function to engage in discussion amongst yourself. But Espen, that was great. Very exciting to hear about the kind of broad reach that Klimasats has in Norway. And then next up, we have Anna Esbjørn. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
He is the program manager for Future Cities, or DK 2020 at Concito. And while this program covers the whole country, it is not national led, but it is a broad partnership, and local and regional action is key to the program, and we're looking forward to hear more about it, Anna.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting us. I have made some few slides. Oh, whoop. I need to get it up, sorry. Oh, what happened?
It's your email, but that's okay.
Oh no, gosh, sorry. Yeah, here you go. Do you see full screen now?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I want to tell you about this project called DK 2020, Climate Action Plans for All Danish Municipalities. And I'm the program director for the Future Cities program at Concito. We're also the project secretariat for this project. And it actually went from a pilot project to a national program, even though it's not nationally led. It's to be short, and I only have 5 minutes. It's about developing or helping municipalities in Denmark to make climate action plans. In Denmark, it's mandatory to make adaptation plans, but it's not mandatory to make climate action plans for greenhouse emissions. So we started out thinking, how could we help Danish municipalities? And we looked at C40, which is a partner in this program, a knowledge partner like we are. And we looked towards their deadline 2020 report saying that cities could help reduce 40% of greenhouse emissions if they took lead. So they developed a climate action planning framework together with 8 member cities. And we looked at this climate action planning framework and said, even though it's developed for cities, and typically much larger cities than we have in Denmark. We said, let's translate it not only into Danish, but also into municipal kind of thinking. So we took the framework, translated it to Danish and to municipal language, you could say. And it's a systematic approach where you have 30 elements in this climate action planning framework that needs to be done and documented. We started the pilot project in 2019, and we had very little time to make a call for climate ambitious municipalities. Actually, we did it, we made a call for 1.5 months where you had to give political commitment, and we wanted 20 municipalities to participate, and 31 applied, and we thought something is going on. There's really an eager out there. So we took the pilot project, developed it very quickly to get some lessons learned to stand upon, and developed it into a national climate action network in 2020. It's supported by the philanthropic foundation association Realdania, and right now, where it's a big national program, it's Realdania, the KL, the Danish local authorities, and the 5 Danish regions that are the partners in the program, and Concito and C40 are knowledge partners, and we are the project secretariat on the national level. So the whole idea is that municipalities develop their own climate action plan with the help of us and the other ones in the program. And the city councils adopt the climate action plans, but Concito and C40 approve that it follows the framework that we are working on. So what does a C40 inspired climate action plan entail? As Espen, you mentioned that you only work with greenhouse emissions. We work, you could say, with a lot. We work with a climate action plan in this framework must aim for climate neutrality by at latest 2050. It must work with climate adaptation and how to make a resilient municipality by at least 2050. It must work with social inclusion and added benefits. So each time you make initiatives, you have to consider the social inclusion issues and the added benefits. It can be everything from air quality to inclusion to how to make a nice green urban spaces. But very importantly is also the governance and the cooperation, because we usually say that climate action planning is not only a technical issue, it has to go into the various departments. So it's also about health, it's also about the social dimension, it's about youth and education, etc. And the municipality will do this by making an evidence-based, inclusive and deliverable plan. So not only a plan, but also actions. It must ensure synergy between mitigation and adaptation, and it must ensure a transparent monitoring process so that you can follow your actions. So the project history in short: Copenhagen had already a C40 approved climate action plan. They aim to be climate neutral by 2025. We started the pilot program in 2019, and in 2021, the first 28, or actually 21 with Copenhagen, finished their climate action plans. They would have been finished by 2020 if we haven't had COVID. It delayed the process a bit. At the end of this year, we will have further another 44 municipalities completing their climate action plans. And right now they are working like crazy to find actions and a systematic approach for their individual municipality. And in 2023, 31 additional municipalities will complete their caps. So at the end, we will have 96 out of 98 Danish municipalities who will have a Paris-compliant climate action plan following this systematic approach by the end of 2023. What we're looking into is also further elements and perspectives. We look very much into how municipalities can learn from each other. We work with the peer group concept. We stand upon the knowledge from the 20 pilot municipalities, but we also have a very good tool, an improved greenhouse gas inventory for all Danish municipalities. That is, it's a database where you can go in and check the emissions from any municipality in Denmark, and we have worked on improving that. That is run by the Energy Council, so the national level. We give guidance on policy measures, how to commit your politicians to implementing the plan to the end. We make webinars, conferences on political leadership, citizen engagement, green mobility, etc. And what we are working on right now is very much the adaptation plan and the very difficult consumption-based accounts. Working with the consumption-based emissions is not mandatory in this framework. It's an element we hope that the municipalities will work with, but it's not a requirement. To make sure that these plans are not only made, but also implemented, we are working on making what we call a DK 2020 Climate Alliance. So making a political implementation partnership. And we are working on making a monitoring framework that can monitor your progress, and also some declarations for the very ambitious ones saying, you know, this group will take lead on transportation or consumption-based emissions, etc. And we're working with C40, as I mentioned. We also have a strategic partnership with WRI, with UNEP, and we would love to expand this framework to Nordic partners. So you could say a Nordic version of this framework, because we've proved, even though it's developed for cities on a much larger scale, it works on a Danish municipal level. And this is the partnership group around it. So if you're interested to hear more, you can always write me, or if you want to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was terrific. And what a nice conclusion that you left us with, well, in talking about Nordic expansion and frameworks and whatnot. I already have a lot of questions to both of you. These presentations provide a very fertile ground. Hopefully we'll continue the discussion in a bit, but finally for this bulk of the program, we also have with us Janna. She's the project manager for Klimatlivet at Naturvårdsverket. And from what I've understood, Klimasats is a bit similar to Klimatlivet is a bit similar to Klimasats that Espen talked about earlier, but we'll find out now. So Janna, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yes, that would be my first remark, that when it was very interesting to listen to Esbjørn also, because there are many similarities between Klimasats and Klimatlivet, or the Climate Leap program. I will try to share my screen, and I hope it will work. So, is this okay? Great. Yes, there are, as I said, a lot of similarities to the Klimasats. This is climate initiatives to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, primarily. And it's, in that case, quite narrow-minded, but in other aspects it's very broad, because There can be a lot of different types of measures and projects that apply for funding, because this is an investment support scheme that was initiated by the Swedish government in 2015. And at the same time, the Swedish government initiated another support scheme for public transport that the Swedish Transport Administration takes care of. That is the urban environmental agreements. So this is 2 initiatives, and now I'm going to speak more about the one that we implements at the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency. It's for the concrete investments. If a municipality wants to put up charging stations or bicycling lanes, or companies want to buy make an investment to make biogas or something like that. And one thing that is different from the Klimasats is that we are open to both public and private applications. And there are, in fact, more private, 83% or more than 80%. I think maybe that's another slide, goes to private initiatives. So not as much to the municipalities. But the government initiated this because, and it's also a bottom-up project, so it's supposed to help fund projects and measures that municipalities and companies and organizations can't fund themselves all the way, so we can co-fund them. The initiative has grown quite a lot since the beginning in 2015. And if we look at the coming years, there are about 9 billion Swedish kronor that we have to in the years to 2026, when the program is supposed to end. And as I said, foremost is we are supposed to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases, and we are supposed to give our money to the projects that give the largest CO2 emission reductions per invested krona. But we also want to see these other means that you see. And here are some of the results from these years that we have been going on. About 10,000 applications. We have in the grants are about 9 billion Swedish kronor. But if we look at the total investments with the part that the municipalities or companies go into, it's about 23 billion Swedish kronor. And as I said, 80% of the grants have been awarded to companies. So this is not an urban sustainability project from the start, but some of our projects are in this area. And I will just give you a few examples. One important example is district heating. And the single largest project that we have been funding is a district heating project that connects the district heating systems in Gävle and Sandviken. They have received 210 million Swedish kronor in a grant, and they are working with it right now. But also in smaller municipalities, in Värnamo municipality and in Svedala, they are building new and have been building new district heating systems. And this, of course, have been an important tool to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Sweden and being fossil free in Sweden. And we can see there's still more to do with the district heating. And the most common measure and investment in our program is electrification and infrastructure for electric cars. And we are the main funding for government funding for charging stations in Sweden. And that is, of course, have a lot of impacts on urban development as well. And also, because we are a broad scheme, we can take if you have an investment that you want to co-fund and that you can make calculations of the greenhouse gas emissions, you can apply for funding, so that we can have a lot of different projects. And these are some of the smaller and not as common, but offshore power supply we have in some ports in Sweden, in Gävle and in Gothenburg and in Stockholm. We have projects for this. And I think this is one of the learnings from this program, is that with this very broad approach, we can take in projects that in some ways, but if we have other types of investment, it should be maybe more efficient to have a special scheme for that, and it should not be in the very broad perspective of the Climate Leap program. I think I would end the presentation and say something more. Let me see.
Thank you, Janna. Yeah, just please go on with your concluding remarks.
And the way that the Climate Leap is organized is also because of the learnings of previous schemes before the Climate Leap program. We had the local investment programs and then the climate investment programs in the 90s and early 20th century. And some of the lessons from them was that the climate investment programs, they were focused on just programs with the municipalities. And when they started the Climate Leap, the government thought that we should focus more on the concrete investments. We know about sort of what measures needed to be done. They had been doing roadmaps for a lot of different, both in municipalities and the EU level. So they thought that what was needed was the funding for the concrete investments to get the charging stations in place, or to get the biogas facilities ongoing. Maybe I should stop there. That was some of our
Okay,
learnings.
great. Thank you so much, Janna. I see there are some questions, but then we'll address them right after the upcoming session. But thank you so much, Espen, Anna, and Janna, for those presentations and so many lessons to delve deeper into. But I think they demonstrate like quite impressive activities and ambitions. I mean, with 96 out of 98 municipalities in Denmark, for instance, with Paris compliant climate action plans. I'm curious to learn more about whether DK 2020 is this kind of middle ground between the Swedish and then Norwegian initiatives when it comes to the stakeholders that are involved, and how that affects the dynamics of these collaboration and initiatives, and how knowledge and competencies transfer horizontally, but also vertically. So anyhow, thank you so much. And then, but Mats, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Diana. Okay, so we will continue, and next we will switch focus and hear a bit about two state-led initiatives where the focus is on area-based neighborhood revitalization or regeneration. Of course, as mentioned already in the introduction, and one of the backdrops of one of the TG projects that we are working with is the notion that segregation has increased, and there are concerns about growing disparities between different population groups, and also how that then is manifested in cities and differences between different neighborhoods. So we will hear two ongoing initiatives. First, I would like to invite to the floor Mona Helland. She is a senior advisor at the Norwegian Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. She will tell us a bit about your work in terms of area-based neighborhood regeneration in the form of områdessatsningar. And we will now do so that we share your slides. So once they pop up, you can feel free to.
Oh, I'm sorry. The fire alarm has just go here.
then maybe we should go with.
We can go with Janna first, if that would make more sense.
Because I think I maybe have to go out. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, no problem. But Janna, if you are able to step in.
Just write to us when you're back, Mona, if you can make it in time.
What's going on here? So then Janna, we have it here integrated in the same slide. Okay.
Yes, I'm ready here.
Okay, can you see the, just a second. We need to share again. We actually integrated your slides in the same presentation as Mona's, and now we can see them here. So we will just share that. And is it full screen?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Then, okay,
No.
please. So Janna, yes, I will just introduce you since we have a new speaker. Now we will actually not go to Norway directly, but we will go to Finland first. We will hear from Janna Nevalainen, who is working with, she's a senior ministerial advisor at the Ministry of the Environment. You're working with Lähiö-ohjelma, which is the neighborhood renewal program for specific suburban areas in Finland. So please, Janna, share some of your experiences from this work.
Thank you very much, Mats, and good afternoon, everybody. So this neighborhood renewal program is for 3 years, 2020, 2021, and this 2022 is our last year. And next one. This program is based on the Prime Minister Sanna Marin's government's program. And of course, anything doesn't appear out of nowhere, the government's program, but I would say that it was the Ministry of the Environment who was active with the mother, and we were promoting and lobbying this program to the government's program a long time before the government actually exists. And this strategy and understanding also of the Ministry of the Environment, I would say, was the vital to get this program to the government's program. Of course, there's lots of national and international research behind this initiative and understanding, and lots of talks with Finnish cities and also with the Association of Finnish Municipalities. So we didn't do this in, let's say, government's isolation, but with multiple talks with different actors. And of course, we have had 2 previous programs, 2008, 2011, and 2013, 2015, and we have learned some lessons from there. Even the structure in general is pretty much the same. So next one, please. So what has been accomplished? We have done lots of networking. The Ministry of the Environment, as chair of the whole program, has been responsible of organizing these networking events for the participating projects. We have done knowledge sharing, cooperation with different actors and different levels. And I think lots of new understanding has been created when these projects, municipal projects and research projects has come together and share their understanding and their work. And we have lots of new ideas. Of course, 3 years is far too short time to solve the problem. We would need much longer period of time to create completely different situation. But this is sort of a kick for something new ideas, new understanding, new redevelopment projects on the local level. So we have this program was targeted for the biggest cities. So this all cities were not able to apply to this. This one, there were altogether 14 cities who were capable to send their applications, but in the end only 13 left their applications and project plans, and we accepted 24 projects. And alongside these local multi-sectoral neighborhood renewal projects, we have 18 research projects from 11 different universities or research institutes. This program has a close, there are many ministries participating in it, but we have a close cooperation with the Ministry of Education and Culture, and especially with the program, the development program for quality and equality in comprehensive school education. And we are also running together a project on school segregation. Next one, please. So lessons learned. There are so many lessons that it was a bit hard to collect them together and say them in short. Also, because this program is rather wide, we have from social issues to carbon neutrality, so very likely different teams would need their own understanding what has been learned and how and what we could do better. But there are some general, and I would start with be strategic. There must be aims, there must be a good background understanding why and what we need to do. And base all your aims and tasks on knowledge and research. We have used lots of research from different sectors, from different teams to when we put this program together with the participating ministries, but there is also lots of local understanding because this public participation is absolutely vital, and that's carried out on local level. So cooperate. You need to cooperate when you are creating just a project. You need to cooperate on every level with all actors and at all levels. Horizontal and vertical, not just one, but you need to, one way or the other. Of course, one person or one project can't do it all, but this kind of wide national program must somehow include all the actors. Understand your responsibility. There are different responsibilities on national level and local level. There are lots of that municipalities can't do, but must be done on national level and vice versa. Funding is fundamental. Extra funding is needed. A message from the municipalities has been pretty much that all that is included to the program should get their own funding. That would also create better cooperation on local level. Share and create the knowledge. You need to share the knowledge that has been created during and in these projects. And there is no one size fits for all solutions. And therefore, this program just gave a frame and themes where to act, but what and how it is done, all decisions were made on local level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Janna, for this very interesting presentation. There were many, many interesting points here. I think that we started off by saying that in a way this is a area-based regeneration initiative, but it's also good that you emphasize this notion that there is a need for both place-based and people-based approaches at the same time. So it's really something that requires a multitude of different types of actions, and there is surely not an easy recipe for solving complex urban problems. Since the fire alarm interrupted our program, we will now slightly deviate from our plan, and we will start off with the panel now, or the Q&A, sorry, and then when Mona shows up, we will see then how to resolve that issue. But yeah, I will give the word back to you, Diana.
Yeah, thanks, Mats. So now we open the floor for Q&A, but just to start off, I see that, yeah, Henrik earlier posed a question, but before I address that, I think kind of one general start-off point, I guess I'll address it to Espen to begin, is having heard from colleagues in Sweden and Denmark, how much do you know about each other's work and programs?
We had the honor of visiting the Klimatklivet some years ago now, after we started Klimasats in 2016. So I think you were there, Janna. I think we met, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, it's been a while. So we learned a lot about Klimatklivet. Klimasats was just about to start, and there are differences. There are similarities and differences. We have another program in Norway that covers some of what Klimatklivet does. So to fund private corporate initiatives and so on. So we are strictly aimed at the public sector. The program here in Denmark, I was not familiar with, so let's be honest about that.
Okay, great. Well, that's why we're all here, to learn even more about what we do know and something about new initiatives. Anna, any thoughts or reflection you'd like to add about the two national-led initiatives, and that DK 2020 works a lot with international partners. How does that inform your work, and with this kind of planetary translation of all these climate goals that we all now must work toward?
Well, I think the important issue about DK 2020 and the reason why it expanded to almost a national full-grown program is that it has an integrated approach. It has a framework that all municipalities in Denmark can work with. And the fact that they are all doing it together, they can learn from each other, and we usually say it's a framework, but it's also a mindset that we have to take on in the Danish municipalities, because Since it's not nationally driven, in Denmark, we have high climate targets, 70% by 2030 and climate neutral by 2050. But to be honest, it's the municipalities that has to inform those targets. It's the municipalities that are close to citizens, companies, etc. So those are the real platform for climate action. And the fact that we've been able to do it on a non-mandatory basis is quite amazing. Right now, just yesterday, we had a new national targets, not targets, there was a new plan coming out today. The carbon tax is coming right as we speak. I was trying to Google if I could find it, how high it is. But the national level cannot do it on its own. Therefore, the municipalities are key actors. And I think we've proven that with this approach, we can inform and make action on a national level. And that's why we would like to share it with other countries, because we can really see that there's something really happening here. And the scale of ambitiousness that we see now is unheard of. It never existed before.
Thank you. I guess another question that comes to mind is Janna, you mentioned that you allocate a lot of funding toward private stakeholders and companies. How do you ensure that the knowledge also translate? Like, are there any synergies between kind of public sector and private sector? Are there any requirements that they must work in a certain way in order to receive the funding, or is it primarily geared towards kind of their innovative practices, and perhaps there's some commonalities there with DK 2020 in terms of how you engage with different stakeholders?
When the applications come in, they first go to the county administrative board in Sweden, which is the regional state level in Sweden, and they look if there are any synergies between other projects that have been in the area, and also that they are in line with the local and regional climate and energy plans. I think in that way there should be synergies, but we are, as I said, quite narrow-minded. We are supposed to calculate the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and of course we can look at other aspects, but at the end of the day, this is the calculations will show what projects we go into.
Okay.
So
great.
I think maybe we can learn from that as well. That it's a quite narrow. It's very focused on the specific projects and measures, and not so much of a more broader aspects of urban development or sustainable development in some cases, but
right,
it's not.
Yeah, but both you and Espen mentioned this kind of balance between the narrow and broad scope that the program need to kind of encompass. But to that end, this question that Henrik asked, how are the goals of these programs monitored? And I guess that goes for all three of you. Espen, perhaps you'd like to say something about that. And I guess that also, in terms of monitoring, I guess that goes for both the narrow and the broad. Like, how do you balance that? Some of the climate emission is quantifiable, but then you also focus on the social aspects. How do you determine the indicators involved in this work?
Me first?
Sure.
Okay. Well, when it comes to measuring success or We are not. It's very difficult to count the number of kilos of CO2 reduced in most of our projects. In some project categories, it's possible, and we always ask the applicant to report on that, and then they give us a number that is as close to what they can do as possible. But in many projects, we are also quite concerned that we help to transform societies over time, and those projects can be very, very difficult to measure. So we'll have to do an assessment and think, does it really contribute to the goal? We follow the project. We have had several evaluations of Klimasats as we go along for every year. And we make those kinds of evaluations, and what they found, we have had external evaluations, and what they see is that we do what we are supposed to do in broad terms, and there are very few projects that are cancelled, for example. So there are some, of course, but not many. I think this discussion about how broad it should be is important. We do look at it when we look at the applications. Do the projects have what we will call other positive side effects? Then that's a plus. And some of the projects certainly do. For example, there's a car sharing project where a municipality is shifting their fossil fuel cars to electric cars, and then citizens are able to use those cars in the evening after work for reduced price. So that has a social aspect to it. So we do have some of those projects. But I think it's just important to discuss, because we have been told by our government, by the United Nations and so on, to look broadly at both environmental goals and social and economic goals. And we want to try to have policies that contribute to all of these. So it's certainly something that we think about every day, but it's not so much in the mandate of the program.
Thank you. Yeah, I keep hearing the word integration in all of your presentation and comments here. So I think that's kind of where bringing all these synergies together. I'd love to kind of continue entertaining this thread of discussion, but I'm being informed here about the time. So I think we'll address the. Sorry, Anna. Yes, please. Of course.
Because the whole monitoring thing is a key in our approach, because one of the key elements is that you have to show and politically commit to a transparent monitoring process. So each municipality, when they have an approved plan, they have a yearly status on where are we compared to our targets, and each typically 4th or 5th year they renew their entire climate action plan, and to see, how their progress has been, and if they should be even more ambitious, they could actually improve their targets. And on the national level, the national DK 2020 project secretariat level, Concito monitors if the Danish municipalities actually do what they have said they want to do, not as a kind of strict finger, but to make sure that it's action and not only plans.
I think we need a dedicated webinar just with these projects. So
we would love that.
Right, great. But then I'll let Mats address the question that's for Janna, and then unfortunately Mona is still not with us, so we'll just kind of move along.
Yeah, we need to move along. And yes, thanks for a very active and discussion and very good perspectives that are being raised here. Unfortunately, we need to move on, but before we do that, there is one question that I would like to ask to Janna. So in the chat, there was a question about, could you say a bit more about what did you mean when you said that there should also be an emphasis on people-based measures, and what would this mean then in practical terms? This is Irina Gerasimova, who asks this question.
Thank you very much, Irina, for the question. It's very important one, and I just when I saw your question, I remembered it was years and years ago. Professor Martin van Ham from Delft Technical University was lecturing in Finland and about these people-based policies, and he said that there's one answer, and it's education, education, education. But of course, it's a wider. It's not just education. Even that is probably the only solution for long-term urban poverty and segregation of school outcomes. But it is also it can be very concrete. Also improving the accessibility of jobs, for example, pathways to work, even very concrete ones, just as public transportation connections. Of course, there is a lot what you can do with reducing unemployment and so on. And also you should focus on social and the spatial integration. There was quite recently quite interesting. It was more about this COVID-19 time research, but showing how from these deprived neighborhoods people don't interact spatially so much than for the wealthier neighborhoods. So there is a lot what you can do, and our program we have put a lot of weight on schools, but also children's possibilities to have a hobby and issues like that, bringing culture in the neighborhoods, and there is a lot what you can do on this sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janna, for a very comprehensive answer. So now we will move forward in the program. Next, we will invite 2 additional speakers. We were here now we've heard a bit about different state-led, nationwide initiatives, but we will go more closely to the local levels. We will hear 2 examples of how municipalities work across to promote social inclusion and green urban development more locally. We will start with inviting Marianne Knapskog. We just received a message from her that she needs to leave in about 10 minutes. So if it's okay for you, Thorstein, we will just shift the order here. So please, Marianne, you work at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and you will present a bit about the project called Tettstedspakken, which focuses on promoting green and inclusive urban development in smaller Norwegian town centers. So please, Marianne.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, and we can see your slides.
The presentation. Thank you. I'm sorry, there's so many things happening around here today, but I would really like to present this project. It's called Tettstedspakken in Norwegian, and it has a really long English title: Policy Packages in Rural Towns for Climate-Friendly, Attractive and Inclusive Places. And for starting this presentation, I have to say 2 words about policy packaging in Norway, because that has influenced the way of thinking also in these towns that we have been working with. So the inspiration for the whole project comes from the Norwegian multi-level policy packages and urban growth agreements that exist between municipalities, counties, and the road and rail authorities, and also the ministries, both for land use and transport. So it's an integrated land use and transport effort. And in Norway, we also have state funding for these packages, but they also have to be complemented by local toll rings. So the car users also contribute to the funding of the schemes. But this is valid only for the largest cities. And also the largest cities are supposed to reach what we call the zero growth goal. So it means that all the growth in transport is to be covered either by public transport, bicycling, or walking, and not by raising the private car use. And this zero growth goal is from the start, it was it's only valid for the larger cities. They have to commit to this through these urban growth agreements. But for the also smaller cities and towns has shown interest in achieving the zero growth goal, even if they don't have to, but they want to have cities that are more climate friendly and inclusive. So the project started with one of these smaller towns that has around 10,000 inhabitants. It's called Bø. It's on the map on the slide. And it started as a pilot project, and it was then extended to 3 other in the same size cities or towns. And here you don't have the same possibilities for funding, but they have the possibility for cooperation and also steering their land use development, and also get smaller incentives for bicycles or pilots. And there are a few examples in our towns that got funding from Klimasats that Espen presented just now. So and it's a really important funding mechanism for them. And the second thing that is also important in these smaller places is to use personal and administrative resources for holistic development across levels, because they have usually fewer, or due to their size, fewer people in their administrations, and also less planners, for instance, working in their municipalities. So they need to look at it in a different way. So what we have suggested is these tettstedpakke, or rural town center policy packages that it can be translated into. And it has these kind of elements. You need a joint vision and some goals for what you want to achieve. And then we've said that you have to have, in addition to the national and regional goals, you also need to know about your local community. So you have to have a status for a knowledge base of challenges and possibilities that is available to you at the local level. And then also what you also on the last point here with indicated and measures that you have to provide these so that you can measure the activity over time. But as Espen says, it's difficult for some of these smaller initiatives, but we still think that indicators will provide some answers over time. And we've had 4 themes in this project. We have had retail and town center activity, traffic in the town center, homes and holiday homes, and welfare, inclusion, and cooperation as our themes. But the other important part here is the way you organize the package, and that it's a multi-level agreement that's made both by municipal, county, and state level actors. And also that they all commit both to the policy package, but also to a project group that can put this package into life. And also then that's especially important is this co-creation with the voluntary sector, but also the local businesses. So we've made a framework for these tettstedpakke, and then we made a package in each town. And it happened in a co-creation with the researchers and the municipalities and counties, but we also had these living labs with local actors to provide the knowledge base for the package. And in the end, after we made these packages, 3 out of 4 municipalities in the project decided to implement it. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens in the years to come when they try to both coordinate what they do locally and also how they interact with each other. We've tried to make a description of how you can make one of these packages but it's in Norwegian, but it's at a TØI website called tiltak.no, which looks at land use and transport measures that you can implement. But there is also a guide, some guidelines and the examples of the finished policy packages as the district center, which is a part of the Ministry for Local Government, and it was just published today actually. So it's called Tettstedpakker for attraktiv, inkluderende og klimavennlig utvikling in Norwegian. But that's also sadly only in Norwegian. But if you have any English questions, you can reach me on email if you like, and it says at the bottom of the slide. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Marianne. I think that we have some questions, but I think that we need to share those for the panel, where you will also come back. Oh yeah, sorry, you will leave. Well, I think that since we are a bit short on time, I suggest that we will forward the questions to you afterwards if we have something specifically. And thank you again, and wishing you all the best, and hopefully we will meet again. Yeah, maybe we could talk some other time when we have some more time. But yeah, and please contact me if you have any questions about the project. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Okay, but this is not the end of the program, so don't leave. Now we will actually have the pleasure of inviting our first speaker from the only Nordic country which has not yet been represented in the program. We have the pleasure of inviting Thorstein Hermansson. You work with Borgarlína in Iceland, which is a new public transport system in the Reykjavik capital region. So please, the floor is yours, and we're very interested in hearing more about this.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the invite to speak at this webinar. It's really nice. I'll just go quickly through the initiative called Borgarlína, a new public transport system, and also the sort of policy package we have now in the capital area of Reykjavik, which is, I guess, inspired by the urban growth policy packages in Norway and also in Sweden. And it's, as the theme of the meeting, it's a multi-level governance project or act we're working with. Just to start with, the initiative for the Borgarlína project came from the 6 municipalities together in the capital area when working on a new regional plan almost 10 years ago, I guess. It's 8 to 9 years ago. We saw that the population has been growing fast, and it's expected to grow even faster in the decades to come. And looking in the rearview mirror, we saw what was quite obvious, that the land use and transport policy in the area had led to vast sprawl since the 70s, with increased car dependency, and we're quite different from the Scandinavian capitals when it comes to both density and travel behavior. And no one wanted to continue on that route. So in 2015, the 6 municipalities together set a new regional plan with a different focus than before, aiming for more sustainability and economic efficiency, trying to integrate even more than before greener urban growth and growth planning and transport policy, and also in a different manner than before. The municipalities are now focusing on brownfield densification in urban centers of the area, and in transport and development corridors connecting those urban centers with a new high quality public transport system, Borgarlína, It will be sort of the new spine or backbone for the sort of weak public transport system we have in the area today. So we're taking huge steps, both with the integration of planning, urban planning, and planning for a new public transport system at the same time. And growth in the population and jobs from 2015 has been focused on the central areas and along the sustainable corridors we're starting to build. And we see already that the BRT system, Borgarlína, will be a catalyst for greener urban development opportunities, like we thought in the beginning. So the market is sort of aiming their financing towards the system. Well, after going through thorough analysis and discussion among the municipalities and the state at that point, it was decided to aim for a high quality BRT system with sort of the option of scaling certain links up to a light rail system later. We only have a bus system today, but the design of this high quality BRT system is ambitious, and we hope to be able to deliver a really good 21st century BRT system where we combine the benefits of a light rail system and third generation BRT system. So at least at this point, we're really ambitious, and the politicians are all ambitious, and hopefully we will continue that. We're in the design phase and starting construction this year with the first 2 Borgarlína routes to be up and running in 2025. So the next 3 years will be implementing and constructing the first phase of the project. The first phase is 14.5 kilometers of infrastructure with 2 bridges crossing the border between Reykjavik and Kópavogur, and also in Reykjavik. And in 2034, the system you see on the map should be up and running with 6 Borgarlína routes integrated with regular bus service. So it should be a integrated public transport system. And of course, the buses, we aim for fossil-free operation with green local energy, either electricity or hydrogen buses. But this is only possible, I guess, because of the Capital Transport Pact that was signed in 2019. It's the Borgarlína project and many other transport infrastructure projects you can see there are based on this Capital Transport Pact between the state and the 6 municipalities in the area. It's a 15-year agreement on planning, investing, and financing infrastructure for transportation. It was, as described there, it was a new era in cooperation between the state and the municipalities. Before we roughly had the regional plan, municipal investment, different municipalities doing different investment, and then the highway investment from the national transport plan. So it was quite not that synergic as we see it now. What we have now is also the common vision and the common goals we have, the state and the municipalities now, is a game changer in my opinion. The carbon neutral community, improved accessibility, and investing in public transportation and biking infrastructure is really a big change for us. And in 2020, the Transport for the Capital Area, the company I work for, it's a sort of a special purpose vehicle, I guess. It was incorporated in 2020 to make this happen, to realize these projects and vision, and work for at least 15 years on that. It is jointly owned by the government of Iceland. 75% is owned by the state, and the municipalities in the capital area have 25% share. We have 6 board members, 3 from the state and 3 from the municipalities, that sort of make the main decisions on all the projects and funding and etc. To conclude, I'm quite sure that a complicated project like the Borgarlína BRT system that links 6 municipalities and crosses the boundaries of those municipalities would probably not be possible without this multi-level capital transport pact and the incorporation of transport for the capital area. It's difficult enough, but it will at least be much more complicated and difficult to implement if we didn't have this agreement and this special purpose vehicle we have now. So that's sort of what I want to share with you today. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Thorstein. Very interesting insights from what's going on in the Reykjavik capital region. Since we are now running short on time, and we are delighted that Mona, that you are back and that the fire alarm was only a test, a false alarm. So please, we would invite you back to the floor. So we have Mona Helland. You are a senior advisor at the Norwegian Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, and you will say a few words about the work that you have going on in your project Områdesatsingar. We will share your slides, just a second, and we will ask you if you could be rather brief, and then if there are some additional points, we can then bring those up again in the panel discussion. Now I'm just about to share screen. Need to, oh, what's going on? Can you see the slide? Oh yes, we go there.
You can go on slide 2.
Slide 2, okay. Welcome, Mona.
Thank you. Thank you, Mats. I'm sorry for the delay. I heard some of the presentation from Finland on my way out. And I think there are quite many similarities with the way we work. I will try to be short, so I think I will shorten my presentation a bit. With the first cooperation agreement for area-based initiatives, we signed in 1997. So we have been working on this for a very long time. And that was between the municipality of Oslo and the government for the inner city of Oslo. That was defined as a distressed area in a white paper for 94. So, and the white paper identified challenges in all the largest cities in Norway, but it was specially focused on the inner city of Oslo. And as many of the other Nordic countries, the largest cities had been through a period of quite extensive urban renewal programs. And these programs focused on physical upgrading of apartment buildings and the green spaces in the older parts of the city centers. But the white paper documented that living conditions for children and youth was still bad. And we still had the challenges with poverty, crime, segregation, and living conditions. And it was necessary to have a different approach with more emphasis on social aspects. So the cooperation agreement for the inner city of Oslo integrated these aspects. And the overall purpose was to make life better and safer for children and youth living in these areas. And we had a lot of, it was quite a lot of money that went into that project. We had 50 million Norwegian kroners every year from the government and the same amount from the municipality. And the program went on for 10 years. So it's also $1 billion Norwegian kroners. Today, you can next slide. Today we have 3 area-based initiatives in Oslo, which is the largest program. And that is about 107 million a year. And 30 of these are earmarked the police and crime prevention. We also have cooperation agreements with Drammen, Stavanger, and Bergen, who gets approximately 10 million each. And this year we are planning to sign a cooperation agreement with Trondheim. The program are initiated by the municipalities and approved by the government before the agreements are signed by our minister and the mayor. Every government has, since the first agreement in 97, supported these programs regardless of political parties. And the government funding comes from different ministries and varies in scope and complexities depending on the challenges and political priorities in the different municipality. As Finland said, there is no one fits all. You have to tailor-made the program, because it's the municipality who defines the area and the main challenges, but we assist the municipality and give inputs into the program and the action plans, and we sit in steering groups. So we try to influence the programs where we can and where we have interest. Next slide, please. Yeah, you can skip that, because there's many other things that Finland also said. What have we achieved? The programs had in many ways changed the way the municipalities work. They had created new networks and arenas across sector lines and are working on projects together with government agencies, private sectors and civil society. We have to have a whole of government approach. And this makes room for innovation, learning, and also ownership to the challenges. And we try to make them have ownership to the challenges, not only the tools, because that is one of the issues that we are struggling with. This has also contributed to new ways of working with integration and inclusion in education and in ordinary public services. And that has also influenced national policy on these issues. And of course, we can see that the areas have been significantly upgraded over the years. More people are now proud of where they live, and people feel more secure than they did before. And people are more engaged in the neighborhoods and have more ownership of what's happening. And we are emphasizing a bottom-up approach in all these projects. We are discussing if we should broaden our focus more on the other aspects of SDGs, and particularly on climate change, but so far this has not been a priority in this work. Innovation and change takes time and patience. It's difficult to change people, mindset and structure. That's also what Finland said. All the progress and projects over the years have been documented in annual reports, and several have been evaluated. We have to share this knowledge not only with other municipalities, but also with government agencies. We have a network consisting of the cities that have cooperation agreement with the government, and we are now expanding this network to other municipalities as well. This year, we will focus more on how we can share all the knowledge we know are in the programs with other actors as well, including government agencies, private sectors, and civil society. We are now planning for a national conference this fall, and maybe we should invite our colleagues from the Nordic countries as well. So I would like to have some input on that, if you please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mona. Very fascinating to hear about both this initiative and also the work that is being done in Finland. These are actually two highly relevant examples from the perspective of our thematic group project, where we are examining what types of approaches there are to address urban segregation. And part of that is looking at area-based initiatives. So I believe that we will surely follow up with you. Unfortunately, now we're running a bit short on time, but I think that both of these examples are very interesting, and also from a comparative perspective to see many similarities, but also some differences in the way that you work. So I think that there is a lot of room to learn from each other here. So hopefully that will be of added value.
But if I may add, Mats, but also having moved from the Icelandic project to the Norwegian initiative, I think also, while we won't have time to address it in detail, this aspect of governance across the Nordic countries, I think that applies to all of the presentations here today. And yeah, let's follow up the conversation on this. But now we have the panelists.
Now we have the panelists. So we would like to invite at the very end of the program two Henriks. The first one is Henrik Lönnqvist from Finland. You work as a manager of urban development at the Association of Finnish Municipalities, Kuntaliitto in Finnish, Kommunförbundet på svenska. And then we have Henrik Bursting Agard from the municipality of Vejle. And you are also you're the head of urban planning there at the municipality, but you are also the chair of Danske Planchefer. So so first of all, I think that based on what you have heard from the presentations today, I was wondering, how do you see the role of the national level in supporting sustainable urban development? Maybe Henrik Lönnqvist, would you like to share some thoughts from your perspective and from the Finnish context?
Yep. Okay. Good afternoon. Shortly, my background is in economics, so I see incentives and coordination and market failures everywhere, and that partly dictates how I see the world. I think the local level municipalities are the key actors here, and we should start from that the local knowledge and local experimentation and that all that is very important. But on the other hand, and this is based on several practical cases, there's a need for cooperation between central government and local government municipalities, and there are multiple reasons for that. Some of these reasons are financial, clearly, and some of them are based on the fact that there are what we call externalities, that the choices and decisions that municipalities made, the effect on also their neighbors, and we need incentives that makes municipalities to take into account these effects. One practical example from Finland for years back was the case of housing production in metropolitan Helsinki area. Well, there was clearly a shortage of social rental housing because municipalities tended to prefer owner-occupied dwellings and private rental, etc. And that created a shortage of affordable rental dwellings, and that really paralyzed the labor markets and also led to unwanted urban sprawl to some extent. And this kind of questions and phenomena create strong case for let's say cooperation between central government and local government, but also some kind of incentive creating. There's a need to create incentives to take into account these larger effects. And I think also these sustainable development issues fall the same category, that we should have such incentives that when municipalities make their choices, they take into account these effects that follow to their neighbors. So I think there's a strong case for cooperation and this kind of incentive creating behavior between central government and local governments.
Thank you very much, Henrik. I really now I think as a segue to the next panelist, the other Henrik from Vejle. Henrik from Finland mentioned here that municipalities are key actors, and you work at a municipality, the municipality of Vejle, but you also represent heads of urban planning in Denmark. So could you perhaps say a few words about how you see this role and what the role of the national level has in supporting sustainable urban development and what you are doing at the municipality level?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for very inspiring presentations. Yes, I agree that the municipalities are key actors in this, but of course we can't do it without help. For example, DK 2020, as and Esbjørn talked about, is an initiative that the state couldn't do, but fortunately we have a Realdania that could do this and make a frame that the municipalities could be in. And now we have these climate plans all over the country soon. But to implement the plans, we need help. We need knowledge, we need funding, we need horizontal and vertical level, what do you call it, cooperation, of course. For example, in these years, we have, the crisis of Corona and now the crisis of the war in Ukraine. We have to do something about energy very quickly. And until now, in the municipalities, we only have volunteer. We have to cooperate with companies and so on to have volunteers making, for example, district heating, to make windmills, solar panels, and so on. We have no direct influence on that. We can make plans, but we can make the windmills and so on. But the state have an issue here. They have some possibilities to help us to find out where can we have windmills and how many, where can we have solar panels, what about the biogas and so on. So we need the national level now. That was my short.
Thank you, Henrik. That was a very concrete example, I think, to illustrate your point. And actually, I'll just kind of toss back another question to you. Based on what we've heard from colleagues up until now, what lessons do you think can be drawn from multi-level cooperation across the Nordics? I mean, we kind of gone in and out of that question, but what are your reflections on that?
Well, I think we have seen examples today about different ways to do things. For example, in Norway and Finland, where they have funding. Norway and Sweden, the way have funding of how to reduce carbon, and that is a good example how you can do it. But and I think bottom up, the way is good to find new solutions. But if you have to do something comprehensive, you do need some plans for the nation. Example, we have this decade 2020 plan. It is necessary if you are doing to make something comprehensive. Those funding things are good when you have a narrow issue to reach, narrow goals to reach. I think so. And so on. It's very inspiring about socially inclusive cities. You have seen examples from, for example, from Finland. I think it's very interesting how you can work with that in planning, and we need that in Denmark. I think so. Yes.
Thank you. I guess we do have to wrap up, but I just like one open question to everyone that has participated in terms of continuing the knowledge exchange and the learnings, because that's one of the main purposes of organizing this, is also hoping to extend the conversation. And what are your thoughts on this? Like, where do we go on from here in terms of bringing people around the table and talk? And Torstein, maybe you have thoughts about this, because Iceland is a little bit far away, and then like how do you engage with Nordic colleagues and all of this? And I welcome everyone to like say 2 short words before we wrap up.
Yeah, thanks. I think there's a lot to learn from multi-level cooperation across the Nordic, and there are different examples, and what we do in Iceland is we always look to Scandinavia for examples of best practice when it comes to cooperation and in governance and all things. So we have learned a lot, and maybe we can be like an example for you at some point. Thank you.
Henrik?
Comment shortly. I think this change of ideas is essential. I think it's a way forward in all subjects, no matter what it is. But the key issue is here to find the right people and to connect the right people. I think there are a lot of debates going in different circles, and I think this right one should try to find those key people. For example, I work in an association where we have 200 experts, and still I don't know all the specialties of those people who I work with. So these organizational boundaries and these can be sometimes very problematic. It takes time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hendrik. So then the final point of the agenda is just to conclude. And here I would like to start off by inviting Daniel André, who works at Boverket here in Sweden. You are also the chair of the Nordic thematic group for green and inclusive urban development that we mentioned in the beginning. Could you, based on having listened now to the hour and 45 minutes of discussions that we have had here, could you share some final words from your side?
Yes, of course. And well, first of all, I want to thank everyone who's been participating in this knowledge exchange, and a special thanks to you, Janna and Mats, and the crew at Nordregio who has managed this seminar and also identified all of these interesting initiatives. And I mean, for me, it's been very interesting to get this overview of the different approaches around the Nordic countries, how to form efficient and inclusive collaboration between actors on the different planning levels, and also how to, jointly work for social inclusive and green development. So our Nordic group on sustainable urban development, we will of course continue to explore these initiatives, and as we've seen today, there's much to be inspired of. So a challenge for us now is to find a way for these the results and the knowledge that we produce to be passed on and to be used. And I think it's been very interesting to see this example on how to create possibilities for national, regional, local actors to learn from each other, and also to learn from each other across the national borders, identifying new ways of solving planning issues, and also finding a way of reflecting jointly on what works well in the different countries. So, I mean, I think this type of seminar that we have today has been a good method on how to do this, and I think we should continue to build on this. And I don't know if you mentioned, but we have this web page. If you go into Nordregio web page, where you can follow the results and what is happening in the work group. And you're very welcome to contact me or Mats or Diana. So yeah, I think this is what I want to say, and I thank you very much. And I hand over to you, Mats, for the last and final words of this seminar.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, so to conclude, I mean, I share everything that you just mentioned, and also from the perspective of us working here with these two research projects at Nordregio, I think that we've also learned a lot, and this has been very valuable for us, and we have many takeaways that we will surely be able to incorporate into our work going forward. Interesting examples from all 5 Nordic countries, interesting examples from the national level and more local levels, and very importantly, the interlinkages between the national level and how that plays out more locally in municipalities and even at the neighborhood level, as we have heard. So I would just, on behalf of all of us here, I think that we want to say a warm thank you to all the panelists and participants, very engaging discussions, and also to all the attendees who have listened in and also written questions in the chat. You can follow the progress of our projects on our Nordregio website. The recording of the webinar will be sent out later this week, and it will be also available on YouTube. Yeah.
We hope to follow up with all of you as a group and perhaps individually as well in different capacities. We recognize that it's been a very packed program, could probably stretch over a 2-day seminar, but that's kind of the aim as well. To have this consolidated version, just to reiterate what Mats and Daniel just mentioned. So I think that's all from us. Again, thank you so much, everyone, the panelists and everyone who stayed with us till the very end.
Yeah, and we wish you all a pleasant week, and we will be in touch. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye for now.